So let's talk about that, right? The concrete policies. What are you guys suggesting, and how would you respond to the common accusation? Oh, the moment we do this, the economy is gonna tank in Singapore. Singapore is a small country. We are not like the other big countries. We cannot, and we only contribute 0.2% to the global warming, whatever it is. But of course,
Yeah.
by per
No, that's a
capita,
big one.
per capita, it's quite bad, right? We are one of the highest. But yeah,
Yeah.
0.2%. But for a small country, that's still
Yeah.
significant, right? So how will you respond to that, the economic aspect of it?
I think we've heard this so many times before. And I think people have this misconception that like environmental activists are saying, oh, let's shut down Jurong Island tomorrow. Like we are responsible people and we are calling not for like immediate shutdown, right? We are saying we need a transition and we have to at least start that process first. So that means like upskilling your workers in oil and gas and maybe moving them into renewable energy projects instead, or equipping them with new skills that they'll need. Right now, Singapore is we've barely started on that process. We are still investing or allowing the expansion of oil and gas or fossil fuels when the science clearly says that that's not possible. So I think that's the main thing that like as environmental activists we want to see, like that transition, and we're not saying like, oh, we should just kick Exxon out tomorrow.
Yeah. I think
Mm.
like the reason why we are still like investing in these companies is because we see them as a major business opportunity. And so you can see that like it's still this constant prioritization of the economy over the environment, and this desire not to transition away from an economy that is pollutive. And also like I think we need to like at least like start that narrative, start envisioning a different kind of economy that we can work on. Like even if we don't exactly like start working on the actions, right? At least start having that conversation and idea, which is not really there right now.
Yeah.
And also I
Okay.
feel like oh yes,
Carry on,
sorry.
carry on,
I
carry
feel
on,
like
carry on.
it's
Yeah.
like this like hyperbole, right? That a lot of people always say like, oh, so the whole economy will crash. And personally, like looking at our 26 recommendations, I think they are quite reasonable, and that I don't think they'll cause the economy to crash. But anyway, like I do acknowledge that it's quite a common narrative in Singapore, in pragmatic Singapore. Like government official, I heard a government official who said yesterday, like, so you say you want to go back to the Stone Age and like
Name
get rid
names.
of
Name
everything.
names. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, don't name names. Yeah.
And then like also like I think like also personal like family friends also like think sometimes like what I'm talking about is like crazy, like also like you don't want to use all your paper, pen, computer. And then I think also another minister who I cannot say in the newspaper last time, he said like so you don't want to get rid of all your phones,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So wait, can I go? So like I think it's quite a common thing in Singapore, but I feel like it's painting a false binary, right, between the economy and the environment. Like what we are calling for is a just transition to, like what Kate said just now, to a new future. We're calling for a steady transition as well. I think like this links back to Students for Fossil Fuel University's report. They called for short-term, medium-term, and long-term measures, and then they also called for overall our the goal that we want to reach is full divestment by 2030. And so this is what we are looking at and calling for. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So this is the poster I see in the lift, right? In Triple S. This is the one you're talking about, right, Terese? The students for yeah, I think it's there. Yeah. Okay.
That's
So
what.
I have two responses, right? One to Kate, one to Terese, right? So Kate, you said that us climate activists are responsible, right? Well, I have three words that I want to discuss later. Just stop oil. we'll discuss that in a while, right? Then Terese, right? If I could push you a little, right? So this, when people talk about the economy, they are not talking about the economy, which is an abstract concept, right? Because depressions, as an economic depressions, kill people as well, right? Depressions kill, recessions take away lives as well, right? I remember the
Yeah.
first year of COVID, there were more deaths by suicide in Singapore than there were by through COVID, right? So how will you respond to that? Like when people are talking about economy, it's not that they don't care about the environment. They are talking about the economy precisely because they care about lives.
Yeah, but I also feel like the current economy in itself is not also doing very well. It's not healthy. Like even if it's some people are definitely like benefiting from it, there's also a very large proportion of it who may not have their voices amplified also that, and also like for example vulnerable communities who are suffering also at this in this economy.
Just to add on to that, I also think that's a very like from a developed country perspective, like yeah, we're suffering like during COVID, during recessions, but what we don't understand is countries like Pakistan, they had floods earlier this year and literally 1/3 of their country was underwater. Like that is just a crazy statistic. And eventually Singapore could reach that point if we're not taking action fast enough.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
fact that also like people like begging for funds, right, from like developed nations. Like why wasn't structures there already that help them to access these funds quickly and have making them also accessible to save lives, as many lives as possible. Like all these shows deep gaps in our economic system and something needs to change. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that was a good answer. I think it's also important to acknowledge that there are some countries, all countries will suffer from climate change, but some will suffer even more, right? So countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan, and you can think about Maldives and those countries are even more vulnerable, right?